You are not bad with money. I want you to hear that first. Before anything else I say today, I need you to understand that. Because the story most people carry, the quiet, private shame of checking their bank account and feeling like they are failing, that story is not the truth. It is a verdict handed to you by a system that benefits enormously from your belief in it. I have sat across from some of the most financially disciplined, hard-working, genuinely responsible people in this country, and they all describe the same feeling. They get paid. For a few hours, maybe the rest of the day, something lifts. They think, this month is different. This month I am finally going to get ahead. And then rent hits, groceries hit, the insurance renews, the subscription they forgot about charges again. And just like that, they are back to doing mental arithmetic in a grocery store aisle, quietly putting something back on the shelf. I know this feeling does not belong to a lazy person. I know it does not belong to someone who made bad choices. I know because the mathematics of it, the cold, structural mathematics, guarantees this outcome for most working people, regardless of their character, their discipline, or their effort. You are not failing. You are trapped. And I call this the compliance contract. It is the oldest financial cage ever built, and most people will live and die inside it without ever knowing the door was unlocked. Let me tell you how the compliance contract was constructed, because understanding the architecture of a trap is the first step to walking out of it. From the time you were a child, a very simple formula was given to you. Get good grades, get a good job, earn a good salary, be financially secure. It sounds like wisdom. It sounds like the responsible path. And I will tell you something uncomfortable. That formula was never designed to make you wealthy. It was designed to make you predictable. Predictable income, predictable behavior, predictable consumption, and predictability is extraordinarily valuable, just not to you. To the employer who can forecast your output, to the tax authority that collects before you ever see the money, to the bank that lends you money at 22% interest against the salary they know will arrive next Friday, to all of them, your predictability is worth a fortune. The system was not built against you out of malice. It was built around you out of design. And the design is working perfectly. Let me put numbers on this, because I believe in numbers more than I believe in feelings. According to the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics, the median full-time salary in America sits at approximately $59,000 per year. After federal income tax, state tax, Social Security, and Medicare, the take-home figure lands near $44,000 annually. That is roughly $3,666 per month. Now subtract reality. Rent at $1,600. Utilities, phone, and internet at $300. Groceries at $450. Transportation, car payment, insurance, fuel at $650. Health-related expenses at $300. Subscriptions and the ordinary friction of modern life at $300. That is $3,900. The median American worker is already operating at a structural deficit before they save a single dollar, before an emergency occurs, before they invest a single cent toward a future that does not depend on Monday morning. That is not a personal failure. That is arithmetic. And arithmetic does not care about your work ethic. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You are thinking, but Warren, I will get raises. The salary will grow. And yes, perhaps it will. Let us say you receive a generous 10% raise. That is approximately $5,900 more before tax. After tax, perhaps $350 additional dollars per month. And here is what happens next. Rent increases. Food costs rise. Your lifestyle adjusts almost immediately, not because you are undisciplined, but because your brain is doing exactly what human brains do. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. I call it the reset tax. Your nervous system recalibrates normal almost instantly. The raise did not solve the problem. It delayed the frustration by approximately 90 days. And then you are back in the same aisle, doing the same mental arithmetic, wondering why nothing feels different. The treadmill does not stop just because you run faster. It simply adjusts the speed. I want to introduce you to what I call the lifestyle lock-in, because this is where the trap becomes sophisticated. Let us say you climb from $60,000 a year to $90,000 a year. That feels enormous. That feels like the breakthrough. But what also changes? The apartment gets bigger. The car gets newer. The restaurant becomes a habit instead of an occasion. The children's school becomes the expensive one because you can now justify it. And slowly, quietly, you need $90,000 just to survive the life that $90,000 built. You did not buy freedom. You bought dependency at a higher level. I have met people earning $150,000 a year who described their situation to me with genuine fear in their eyes. They said, "I cannot leave. My mortgage is too large. My children's school is too expensive. My life depends entirely on this job continuing." That is not success. That is the golden handcuffs, the most elegant prison ever designed, because the prisoner furnishes it himself and calls it a reward. Let me show you the structural reality of what a salary actually is, because most people have never been taught to look at it this way. I want you to think about the nature of salaried employment as a financial instrument, stripped of all the comfort and familiarity attached to it. Your income is capped by a number negotiated once or twice a year, while your output can increase without limit. Your taxes are extracted automatically before the money reaches you, which means you are the most efficient tax collection mechanism ever devised. Your risk is entirely personal. If the company thrives, the shareholders celebrate. If the company struggles, you are the first cost they eliminate. And your time is fixed. You have approximately 2,000 working hours per year. You cannot expand that. You cannot replicate it. You cannot send it to work while you sleep. A salary is a closed system. It has a ceiling that is structural, not personal. And no amount of personal excellence can break through a structural ceiling. The constraint is not your effort. The constraint is the instrument itself. Now I want to tell you about what I call the leverage gap, because this is the mathematical divide between people who build wealth and people who simply earn income. If you earn $30 per hour and your company bills your time at $120 per hour, you receive 25 cents of every dollar of value you create. That gap, the 75 cents you never see, is not a moral outrage. It is the cost of the infrastructure, the risk, the capital, and the ownership the company provides. I understand that. I have been on the ownership side of that equation my entire life, but I want you to understand it too, because understanding it is what changes how you think about your own financial architecture. When I invest $1 in a business, that dollar works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It does not need sleep. It does not need health insurance. It does not call in sick. It does not negotiate. It simply compounds. A salary stops the moment you stop. That is the fundamental difference between earned income and capital income. And the tax code reinforces it completely. Long-term capital gains are taxed at 15 to 20% in the United States. Ordinary income, the kind that comes from a salary, is taxed at 22 to 37% for most working Americans. I have said publicly many times that my effective tax rate is lower than my secretary's. I was not celebrating that. I was pointing at the architecture of the system so that people with eyes could see it clearly. Let me tell you about something psychologists have identified that I believe is one of the most financially destructive forces in the lives of working people. It is called loss aversion. The research, advanced significantly by Daniel Kahneman at Princeton, who won the Nobel Prize in Economics in 2002, demonstrates that human beings feel losses approximately 2.5 times more intensely than they feel equivalent gains. This is not weakness, this is wiring. But in the context of the compliance contract, it becomes a leash. When all of your income comes from a single source, and when that source is also attached to your health insurance, your retirement account, and the identity you have built over years, your brain does not ask, "What could I build?" It asks, "What do I stand to lose?" And quietly, without announcement, the creative part of your financial life shuts down. Not because you gave up, because your nervous system calculated the risk of losing what you already have and decided, rationally, that staying still was safer than moving. That is how the trap maintains itself without locks or guards. The prisoner becomes the warden. The cage becomes the preference. And I call this the comfort ceiling, the invisible upper limit that most people never push against, not because they cannot, but because the cost of trying feels greater than the cost of staying. I want to address something directly. The Bureau of Labor Statistics data going back decades shows that real wages, that is, wages adjusted for inflation, have remained nearly flat for the median American worker for more than 40 years. Not because workers became less productive. Productivity per worker has risen significantly over that same period. The output increased, the compensation did not. The gains went to capital, to ownership, to the shareholders of the companies that employed those workers. I am not saying this to generate resentment. I am saying this because if you believe that working harder within a salary structure is the path to financial security, the data contradicts you. The finish line moves. It has always moved, and it will continue to move because the system was not designed to let the finish line stay still for the people running toward it. Here is what I want you to understand about leverage, because this word is misused constantly. Leverage is not borrowed money. Leverage is the ability to multiply output beyond personal effort. Code is leverage. You write it once, it runs 1,000,000 times. Content is leverage. You make it once, it reaches people while you sleep. Capital is leverage. It works when you are not working. Systems are leverage. They produce without requiring your continuous presence. A salary has almost no leverage. You stop, it stops. That equation has never built generational wealth, not once in the history of American finance. Every significant fortune I know of was built on some form of leverage, on ownership, on systems, on the compounding of assets that did not require the owner to be present to function. The path out of the compliance contract is not to work harder inside it. The path out is to begin building something outside of it, even modestly, even slowly, even while the salary continues to pay the bills. Let me be clear about what I am not saying. I am not telling you to quit your job tomorrow. That would be reckless advice, and I have never given reckless advice. Your salary right now is seed capital. It is the first investor in whatever you eventually build. The question is not whether you have a salary. The question is whether your salary is funding your freedom or only funding your dependence. There is a difference between using a job as a launch pad and using it as a destination. Most people were taught it was a destination. It is not. It was never supposed to be. The people who designed it knew that. They simply did not teach it to you in school, because graduates who understand leverage are significantly less predictable than graduates who do not. I want to leave you with a picture. Imagine you are 80 years old. You are somewhere quiet. You cannot work anymore. You look back at a life of genuine effort, real discipline, honest intention, and you ask yourself the only question that matters at that age. Not how hard did I work, but what did my work build? Did it build something that outlasted my presence in the office? Did it create assets that compounded while I slept? Did it give me options, or did it give me only income? Did I use the time I had to construct something real, or did I trade my hours, faithfully and forever, for a number that the system reset every 2 weeks and called a salary? That question is not hypothetical. It is the question that waits for every working person at the end of a career spent inside the compliance contract. And the answer, in most cases, is a silence that speaks louder than any headline. You are not broken. You are not lazy. You are not bad with money. You were handed a formula designed to benefit everyone in the system except you. Now you know that. And knowing it is the only thing that makes the next decision different from every decision before it. The door to the cage is open. It has always been open. You just have to want freedom more than you want the comfort of the familiar.